Hey guys, tonight we slip back in time to a world of misty canals, delicate porcelain, and endless leaves of tea. The daily rituals of Qing Dynasty scholars as they greet the dawn. Picture yourself waking just before sunrise in Suzhou, that famed city of gardens and waterways. The air is cool and thick with the scent of damp earth and ancient stone. Your breath hangs in the air like a ghost, and the faint clatter of a distant boatman's oar is the only sound breaking the early silence. You probably won't survive this morning routine without at least one spilled cup or a confused servant knocking over a stack of poetry scrolls. But hey, that's the charm of waking as a scholar in the Qing era. You're bound to mess up the tea ritual at least once. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, drop a comment telling me where you're tuning in from and what time it is where you are. It's always fun to know who's joining this sleepy history club around the globe. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You awaken in a modest scholar's residence, the kind surrounded by narrow alleys and canals that crisscross Suzhou like veins in a jade pendant. Your bed, a simple wooden frame with a woven mat, offers little warmth this early, but you pull your robe tighter around your shoulders as the thin morning light creeps through paper windows. The curtains flutter softly in a light breeze, carrying with it the faint aroma of plum blossoms. Outside, the city begins its slow stir. A fisherman untangles nets in a nearby canal, his practiced hands moving with a rhythm as old as the river itself. In the distance, temple bells toll softly, an ancient signal that the new day has arrived. The scholars in your neighborhood rise with similar quiet determination. For you, this dawn marks not just the start of a day, but the continuation of a lifelong commitment to learning, reflection, and tea. Rising carefully to avoid waking your sleeping family, you slip into your layered robes. They're plain but made of fine cotton, dyed a muted indigo, the preferred color of modest scholars signaling seriousness without flamboyance. The weight of the fabric reminds you of your place, not a merchant, not a noble, but a man dedicated to the arts and letters. Your slippers pad softly on the cool wooden floor as you make your way toward the courtyard, a small patch of earth that holds the heart of your daily ritual. Here, dew clings to moss-covered stones, and slender bamboo stalks sway gently. The early light catches on a small stone statue of a Taoist immortal, watching silently over your morning. You pause briefly, taking in the silence, a calm before the intellectual storm of the day. This moment is sacred, a quiet breath before the whirlwind of scrolls, ink, and endless cups of tea. The city itself is a living painting in watercolors. Ancient bridges arch over lazy canals. Red lanterns hang motionless in the mist, and fans flap against windows as housewives begin their morning chores. Suzhou is both your home and your muse, a place where the line between nature and culture blurs into endless inspiration. Yet, beneath the serene surface lies a subtle tension. Scholars like you are often reminded that your status, while respected, depends heavily on adherence to strict rituals, both social and personal. Your tea ceremony this morning is not merely a drink, but a test of character, patience, and precision. A single misstep, a cup poured too hot or leaves steeped too long, and your reputation might waver, even if only in your own mind. Historians still argue whether these elaborate tea rituals were more about genuine appreciation or social posturing, but for now you push those doubts aside. Today, you will play your part with dedication, savoring every sip and every step as if it were a sacred text. As you prepare to move deeper into your morning routine, the cool air brushing your face, you realize this daily act is more than habit. It's a quiet rebellion against the chaos outside, an assertion that beauty, knowledge, and mindfulness can thrive in the humblest corners of the world. So you trudge on, the first of many small steps in a day defined by tradition and taste, ready to steep yourself in the ancient art of Qing Dynasty tea. You step quietly into your scholar's private garden, the real stage for your morning ritual. This isn't just any patch of dirt. It's a carefully curated masterpiece of nature and philosophy, designed to remind you of Confucian virtues. With every stone, flower, and trickling stream, the air here is cooler, the scent richer as the garden awakens alongside you. Your bare feet press softly onto mossy stones, worn smooth by generations of contemplative footsteps. Each plant is placed with purpose: bamboo to symbolize resilience, plum blossoms for purity, and the humble lotus, rising from mud, yet untainted. The subtle geometry of rock and water mirrors the ideals you strive to embody: balance, harmony, and patience. As you move past a small pond, koi fish lazily circling beneath lily pads, you notice the morning mist curling like smoke around the garden walls. It softens the edges of the world, blurring boundaries between earth and sky, just as your studies blur lines between philosophy and poetry. You stop briefly at a carved stone bench, its surface cool and damp, perfect for moments of reflection. From here, the garden looks like a miniature universe, each element telling a story. Here, a twisted pine tree leans against the wind, teaching perseverance. There, a carefully placed rock evokes the rugged mountains that Confucius himself would have admired. Yet this garden is more than symbolism. It's also your daily escape from the demands of officialdom and family expectations. Here, among the leaves and petals, you reclaim a piece of yourself that the world outside tries to control. Today, your gaze lingers on a small bamboo water fountain, the steady drip-drip sound punctuating the morning silence like an ancient metronome. It's said these water features were invented to remind scholars that time flows steadily, whether or not you're paying attention. You chuckle quietly, wondering if your procrastination counts as paying attention, or just wasting precious seconds. This serene setting is also where tea preparation begins in earnest. But before you boil a single leaf, you carefully tend to your plants, watering a few here, pruning a withered leaf there. It's a subtle act of care, a way to align your mind with nature's rhythms. Curiously, some scholars carried exotic plants like chrysanthemums and even rare orchids in tiny pots to their gardens, flaunting wealth under the guise of intellectual pursuit. Historians still argue whether these botanical treasures were truly about spiritual growth or just highbrow showing off. You reach a small jade basin where the servants have placed your tea utensils, gleaming faintly in the soft dawn light. The copper kettle sits ready, polished to a muted shine, steam curling gently from its spout. The delicate porcelain cups, each painted with poetic calligraphy, seem to invite you into the ritual with silent elegance. Your hands linger on a smooth tea scoop carved from rare wood, its surface worn by decades of use. It's a reminder that your tea ritual is not a hurried task but a slow dance, where every gesture matters and nothing is rushed. Nearby, a stone tablet bears an inscription: "Harmony in tea, harmony in life." You run your fingers over the faded characters, feeling a calm pulse beneath your skin. This simple phrase encapsulates everything you strive for today: to find peace in the everyday, to turn a humble drink into a meditation on existence. Yet, even in this quiet sanctuary, you can't help but feel the weight of expectations. Your friends and rivals alike watch to see if your tea ceremony follows tradition flawlessly. To falter is to risk gossip behind your back, or worse, the quiet judgment of the literati class. But you shrug off the pressure, reminding yourself that the garden is your refuge, your secret weapon against a world too loud and too demanding. You breathe in the mingling scents of pine, wet earth, and tea leaves, feeling the garden's tranquility seep into your bones. The mist thickens, the koi dive beneath the surface, and for a moment time itself seems to pause. You glance up toward the garden gate, knowing the day's challenges will soon return. But for now, the garden and the ritual of tea holds you gently in its embrace. You move toward the heart of the ritual, the copper kettle. It gleams faintly, the soft reflection of dawn pooling across its rounded belly. The kettle is more than a tool. It's practically a member of your scholarly family, passed down, polished, and revered. You grasp its handle with the familiarity of a lifelong friend, careful not to disrupt the delicate balance of water temperature. In your hand rests a jade scoop, smooth and cool against your palm, cradling the precious tea leaves you gathered the previous afternoon from a trusted source. Tea isn't just tea here. It's a living, breathing poem, each leaf a line written by nature, waiting for your interpretation. You carefully weigh the leaves, the subtle crunch of dry tea breaking the morning silence. The ritual demands precision. Too many leaves and the brew becomes bitter. Too few and it tastes like watered-down promises. You've learned the perfect ratio by trial, error, and the occasional raised eyebrow from visiting scholars. Water heats in the copper kettle over smoldering charcoal. Its temperature a subject of endless debate. Is it better to let it reach a full rolling boil, or to stop just short? You've seen masters argue this point for hours, some insisting the perfect bubble releases the leaves' spirit, others saying it kills the delicate aroma. Historians still argue whether these temperature debates were genuine attempts at perfection or subtle displays of one-upmanship among the elite. You, of course, play along with all the seriousness it deserves, though you secretly suspect a fair bit of performance. The water begins to dance softly, a gentle simmer beneath the copper dome. You pour a small amount over the leaves, watching as they unfurl and awaken like ancient scrolls revealing their secrets. The color deepens from pale gold to a rich amber, steam curling in lazy spirals, carrying scents of jasmine, pine, and the distant mountains. You inhale deeply, savoring the fragrance as it fills the small courtyard. A neighbor's crow echoes, faintly in the distance, and the soft tapping of bamboo leaves overhead adds rhythm to the scene. There's a poetry to this moment, a simple ceremony where nature and human touch meld. But tea-making is not without its quirks. Some scholars insist on counting the seconds of each steep with the precision of an astronomer timing a comet's return. Others swear by the sound of the first bubble, or the way the steam feels on the wrist. You smile to yourself, recalling an old story about a famed tea master who claimed he could tell the exact spring from which the water came just by the way it hissed in the kettle. His disciples believed it until they realized he was actually measuring the quality of their tips. Your fingers, steady and practiced, lift the kettle and pour the hot water into a tiny porcelain teapot, itself an exquisite piece of art. The teapot's surface is painted with a scene of scholars by a moonlit lake, frozen forever in contemplation. You imagine those ancient figures raising a cup just like you, caught in the same endless quest for understanding. As the tea steeps, you let your mind wander to the myriad leaves you've tasted over the years. Each season brings a new variety, a fresh challenge. The spring's green buds offer crisp freshness, while autumn's darker teas warm the spirit like a well-worn poem. You pick up one of the delicate cups, holding it beneath the spout as the Dunember liquid flows, the porcelain whispering against the tea's surface. The first sip is always the most important. Too hot and it scorches the tongue, too cold and it dulls the senses. You close your eyes briefly, feeling the warmth spread, the complex flavors unfolding slowly, like an ancient scroll revealing hidden wisdom. The bitter notes balance with subtle sweetness, a reminder that life itself is a blend of hardship and joy. Nearby, a small servant stands quietly, trained to know exactly when to hand you the next cup without breaking the meditative silence. You give a subtle nod of thanks, aware that this dance between master and servant is as much ritual as necessity. But not everyone agrees on the proper way to brew or serve tea. Scholars from different regions bring their own traditions and rules, sparking debates that can get surprisingly heated given the serene setting. Some insist on glassware, others demand porcelain. Some say tea should be sipped slowly, others prefer brisk gulps. You shrug off the controversies, savoring the moment as your own. This copper kettle, these jade scoops, and the steam curling. The morning air are your allies in a timeless battle to find peace, one perfect cup at a time. The tea's first warmth settles in your chest just as you reach for your inkstone. The heavy rectangular slab, its surface worn smooth by years of grinding, waits patiently on your desk. You tap the top of your brush, the bristles stiff from drying overnight. and begin to rub it slowly against the pine soot ink stick, releasing a thick, fragrant black paste. The scent is deep, earthy, and somehow grounding, blending strangely with the floral vapors still hanging in the air from your morning brew. Grinding ink isn't just practical, it's an act of meditation, a way to steady your thoughts before the swirl of writing and study begins. The rhythmic circular motions take time, inviting your mind to slow down, to focus on the moment rather than the endless scrolls awaiting your attention. The sound is subtle, a soft scraping that fades into the garden's natural chorus. You pause occasionally to inhale the smoky pine aroma, feeling it mingle with the sweet scent of tea leaves lingering on your fingers. The two smells combine into a unique perfume of scholarly life, something you'd recognize anywhere, even in a bustling city street or a crowded tea house. This slow preparation contrasts sharply with the quick scribbles of younger students who rush their ink, eager to finish assignments and avoid further study. You smile, knowing that patience is one of the few virtues that separates the true scholar from the dilettante. There's also a quirky superstition surrounding ink grinding. Some believe that the quality of your ink can influence your writings, power, that a well-prepared ink could, in a metaphysical sense, summon inspiration. Others joke that grinding ink while thinking about a difficult exam might actually wear away your luck, sending the black paste into a bad mood. Historians still argue whether such beliefs were widespread or mostly tongue-in-cheek humor among literati, but it adds a charming layer to the ritual you partake in daily. Once your ink is ready, you dip your brush, feeling the soft hairs soak up the dark fluid. The brush becomes an extension of your will, poised to glide over the delicate rice paper or silk scrolls before you. But before you begin the true work, you take a slow sip of the now cooler tea, its taste sharper and more complex after settling. The contrast of ink and tea creates a sensory harmony. Black and amber, bitter and smooth, tactile and fragrant. You can almost hear the ancestors whispering encouragement through the rustling bamboo. Nearby, a small carved wooden box holds your treasured collection of seals and stamps, symbols of authority and identity. Using these at the end of a letter or poem signals not just authenticity, but also pride in your craft. Yet, as the ink pools on the brush's tip, your hand feels the familiar tremor of fatigue. Calligraphy is a demanding art. Each stroke requires control, grace, and focus. You remind yourself this is more than beautiful handwriting. It's a reflection of your moral character and inner discipline. You glance at the scroll beside you, unfinished characters waiting for completion. The scent of pine soot mingles with the earthy garden air, the morning light casting soft shadows across your workspace. This moment between tea and ink is where the day truly begins, the gateway between thought and expression. And just when you think the day might settle into predictable routine, your mind flickers with the memory of a curious tale. It's said that some Qing scholars would secretly mix crushed chrysanthemum petals into their ink, believing it would ward off evil spirits and inspire poetic genius. Whether truth or legend, it adds an unexpected floral twist to the otherwise somber black paste. You chuckle softly, dipping your brush again and prepare to write, knowing the ink and tea together hold the power to transport you through centuries of thought and tradition. You cradle the brush between your fingers, its soft hairs poised above the delicate silk scroll. Each stroke you make is deliberate, an attempt to capture not just words but the very essence of clarity and virtue, the ideals you chase as a Qing scholar. Your wrist protests silently, a subtle ache from hours of repetitive motion. But you ignore it. This calligraphy is a dance, a dialogue between your hand, the brush, and the tea-infused air. Each character unfolds gracefully, the brush's tip widening and narrowing like a dancer's step. The ink bleeds slightly into the silk, a soft halo forming around the strokes. This imperfection, embraced rather than feared, gives life to your writing. After all, the human hand cannot be flawless, nor should it strive to be. You take a slow sip of your now lukewarm tea, the bitter edge sharpening your focus. The flavor pairs well with the rhythm of your brush. The tea, once a liquid companion, becomes a muse inspiring every flick of your wrist. As you write, you can't help but recall the countless poems and essays dedicated to tea and calligraphy. Some scholars even likened the perfect brushstroke to the ideal sip of tea, balanced, full of character, and with a lingering finish that leaves you wanting more. But this dance is not without its frustrations. Your fingers cramp, your back aches, and the ink sometimes pools too heavily or dries too quickly. Once a careless slip left a blotch on a precious scroll, causing you to curse under your breath. Such moments test your patience and discipline. Historians still argue whether the intricate tea calligraphy ritual was more about aesthetic beauty or a method of mental training to instill discipline and calm. You lean toward the latter, as the mental state you achieve during these moments is akin to meditation, a rare calm in a world of bureaucratic chaos. Your brush finally completes the last character. You set it down carefully, as though laying a sleeping child to rest. You stretch your cramped wrist and lean back, watching the ink settle on the silk. The courtyard is still quiet, save for the distant clatter of a bamboo wind chime, tinkling like a gentle reminder to savor the moment. The light filters softly through the garden leaves, casting dapples that flicker with your every breath. You glance over your work, feeling a modest pride. This is your day's first offering to the gods of learning and tea. A quiet testament to your dedication. Suddenly, a slight breeze wafts through, carrying the scent of crushed jasmine from a neighbor's garden. You raise your cup to your lips again, savoring the mingling flavors and fragrances, letting them settle in your mind. And just as you think the morning's serenity might last forever, you hear footsteps approaching. Another scholar, perhaps, ready to share gossip veiled in poetry, or challenge you to a debate on the merits of tea from different provinces. But for now, you breathe in the mingled scents of ink and tea, the gentle ache in your wrist, and the quiet satisfaction of a ritual performed well. Small victories in a life devoted to the pursuit of knowledge and taste. The soft crunch of gravel announces the arrival of your fellow literati. You lift your cup in greeting, and they respond with polite nods, faces flushed with the morning chill and the excitement of shared company. Today's gathering takes place in a neighbor's pavilion, a delicate structure perched beside a willow-lined pond, where the reflections of hanging branches ripple in the water like whispered secrets. As you settle into your seats, the second steep of tea arrives, slightly stronger, richer in character. The subtle bitterness tickles your tongue, the perfect companion to the barbed exchanges about poetry and politics that are about to unfold. These conversations are never straightforward. Beneath the flowery compliments and references to ancient verses lie sly jabs and the occasional pointed insult. You remember the time when one friend praised a poem as refreshingly rustic, which was a clever way to say it was amateurish at best. You chuckle softly, aware that such passive-aggressive verse is the literati's favorite weapon. It's like a sophisticated meme. Only the initiated understand the layers of meaning. The air is thick with the aroma of steeped leaves and ink, mingling with the faint scent of burning sandalwood from an incense burner. Your fellow scholars lean in, voices lowered to a conspiratorial whisper as they discuss the latest political maneuverings at the imperial court, all while debating the merits of different tea-growing regions. Some swear by the smoky taste of teas from Wuyi Mountains. Others champion the floral notes of Longjing. Historians still argue whether these tea tastings were genuinely about flavor or merely elaborate status displays designed to demonstrate refinement and superior knowledge. You suspect it's a little of both, and the competition only adds spice to the gathering. As the conversation drifts to poetry, a sharp wit compares a rival's latest verses to water barely warmed, an elegant way of suggesting dullness without overt offense. You admire the cleverness, knowing that in this world, words are swords, and every line carries weight. The pavilion's latticework filters sunlight into delicate patterns across the floor, the atmosphere both intimate and charged with intellectual energy. Despite the friendly tone, you feel the unspoken tension, everyone vying to appear more cultured, more insightful, more important. You sip your tea carefully, aware that your next comment might be dissected with the precision of a calligrapher's brushstroke. This performance is as much about reputation as it is about genuine exchange. Yet beneath the surface, there's camaraderie, a shared understanding that this daily ritual is both a refuge and a battleground. The tea acts as social glue, binding together rivals and friends alike in a dance of words, wit, and tradition. As the sun climbs higher, you feel the warmth on your skin and the gentle buzz of conversation weaving around you. The bitterness of the tea sharpens your senses, and you prepare your next carefully crafted response. The day unfolds like a well-steeped brew, complex, layered, and full of unexpected flavors. You find yourself deliberately letting the tea steep. A little too long today, watching the color deepen to a dark amber that promises a bitter edge. There's a subtle thrill in this small rebellion, oversteeping your tea to appear aloof and detached, like the ultimate scholarly enigma who's too cool to care about trivial details. It's a practiced move, a social signal wrapped in the guise of ritual. The first sip confirms what you suspected. The bitterness bites sharply, a stark contrast to the delicate flavors of a perfectly brewed cup. But secretly, you savor it. The sharpness like a spicy meme only the truly cultured can appreciate. You smile to yourself, imagining your fellow scholars' raised eyebrows if they noticed your intentional oversteep. This quirky habit isn't unique to you. Some Qing scholars believed that drinking bitter tea was a way to cultivate endurance and toughness of spirit. They argued that the harsh taste mirrored the difficulties of scholarly life, the endless exams, the relentless bureaucracy, and the delicate dance of court politics. Historians still argue whether these bitter brews were genuine experiments in taste or clever performances designed to intimidate less experienced tea drinkers. You suspect a bit of both, especially since some masters would switch to sweeter teas in private moments, away from the prying eyes of their peers. Your deliberate bitterness also serves a practical purpose. It gives you a conversational edge, allowing you to claim a preference for strong character in tea, a metaphor easily extended to personality and political stance. You see nods around the table, the unspoken approval of those who respect fortitude cloaked in tea jargon. Yet, as the bitterness lingers on your tongue, you can't help but think about the paradox. While you cultivate this image of aloofness, you also crave the warm comfort of milder brews. It's the classic scholar's dilemma, balancing genuine passion with social expectation. The bitter tea reminds you of an old tale about a reclusive monk who drank only oversteeped tea to cleanse the soul. Some say he achieved enlightenment, others say he just ruined his taste buds. Either way, the story circulates in tea houses, adding a layer of mystique to the practice. As you lean back, savoring the complex flavors and your subtle social gambit, the garden around you seems to pulse with life. The rustle of bamboo, the distant caw of a crow, the whisper of leaves stirred by a gentle breeze. You realize that in this world of rituals and appearances, even a cup of tea can become a statement, a coded message in a society where words and tastes carry more weight than swords. So you take another deliberate sip, the bitterness sharp but oddly satisfying, and prepare for whatever social duel or philosophical debate might follow next. You glance toward the servants bustling quietly in the background, expertly navigating the courtyard without disturbing the sacred flow of your morning ritual. Yet, you've mastered the art of avoiding domestic chores with the practiced grace of a cat slipping through shadows. A well-timed cough here, a thoughtful pause there. Each gesture carefully choreographed to project deep contemplation rather than shirking responsibility. Your intellectual gravitas becomes your shield, a buffer between you and the mundane tasks that threaten to pull you away from study and tea. You've noticed that a furrowed brow or a faraway gaze is enough to convince most servants that you are busy wrestling with complex Confucian dilemmas, not simply avoiding fetching firewood or sweeping the courtyard. In fact, some scholars take this avoidance to artful extremes. There's a whispered story about a particularly cunning literatus who trained his pet cricket to chirp intermittently, creating a convenient excuse for sudden absences. I must attend to the cricket's evening. Recital, lest it lose its voice. Historians still argue whether these tales reflect genuine avoidance or clever social strategies to preserve a scholar's time and energy for intellectual pursuits. Either way, you find them amusing and strangely relatable. Today you feign a deep sigh and stroke your beard thoughtfully, watching as a servant hesitates near a pile of dusty scrolls, unsure whether to ask you for assistance. Your eyes remain distant, fixed on the curling steam rising from your cup, giving the impression of profound absorption. A subtle cough interrupts the quiet, and you shift your posture, standing slowly to adjust an imaginary manuscript. The servant nods, deciding to handle the chore alone, grateful for your silent no. You sip your tea, letting the warmth spread through your body, savoring the small victory of dodging an unwanted task. It's a delicate balance, too obvious, and you risk appearing lazy, too subtle, and the work finds its way back to you. This dance between scholar and servant is an unspoken part of your daily life, a ritual almost as intricate as tea preparation. Each side plays its role with a mutual understanding, respect mingled with a touch of mischief. As the sun rises higher, you return your attention to the scrolls and ink, feeling the weight of your responsibilities return. But for now, you relish this brief moment of leisure won through wit rather than effort. The courtyard seems to breathe with you, leaves rustling softly, a reminder that even in avoidance there is a rhythm and order to be found. You chuckle softly, wondering what your predecessors would think of these little evasions. Perhaps they too had mastered the art of looking busy while secretly enjoying an extra cup of tea. You recline beneath the woven rattan fan, its gentle swaying creating a soft breeze that flutters the edges of your robe. The courtyard is quiet save for the subtle hiss of sandalwood incense burning slowly in its ornate holder, its fragrant smoke curling upward like a whispered prayer. This incense clock, a timekeeping device as elegant as any mechanical watch, measures the passing hours in a way that feels more poetic than practical. You close your eyes, letting the sandalwood's warm aroma wrap around you. The gentle tick-tock of dripping water or shifting incense ash marks the slow march of time, guiding your afternoon nap in measured, unhurried intervals. This moment is a deliberate pause in the day, a space carved out for rest amid endless scrolls and teapots. Yet, despite your best efforts at serenity, you find your mind drifting, half asleep, half alert, aware of the risk that someone might catch you nodding off and quietly chuckle at your expense. You try to maintain a dignified posture, but the slow warmth spreading through your limbs encourages surrender to sleep's gentle pull. You've heard tales of scholars who took the incense clock's timing so seriously they would wake precisely as the last wisp of smoke faded, resuming their duties with practiced precision. Others, less disciplined, would snooze through the entire cycle, only to be jolted awake by the stern gaze of a passing servant. Historians still argue whether these incense clocks were used widely or mostly for ceremonial effect. Whatever the case, you find the ritual soothing, the rising smoke a tangible measure of time's passage in a world before clocks ruled. As your breathing slows, the garden around you seems to pulse with life. The distant song of a nightingale, the rustle of bamboo leaves stirred by a faint breeze, and the soft splash of koi swimming beneath a stone bridge. Your thoughts meander, mixing images of ink-stained hands, steaming teacups, and ancient texts piled high on wooden desks. You wonder if the scholars of centuries past also found comfort in these small rituals, these gentle markers of time and presence. You shift slightly, feeling the smooth wood beneath your head, and allow yourself to drift deeper into the hazy border between wakefulness and sleep. The incense smoke blurs your vision, transforming the courtyard into a dreamscape where tea leaves float like golden butterflies and calligraphy strokes dance in the air. Just as you begin to sink fully into rest, a soft breeze carries the scent of fresh rain on bamboo, a reminder that the day still moves forward, regardless of your desire to pause it. You smile softly, knowing that this brief nap, punctuated by the incense clock's slow rhythm, will recharge your spirit for the afternoon's challenges. After all, Even the most dedicated scholar needs moments of stillness to brew clarity in the mind, much like tea leaves releasing their essence in hot water. And with that thought, you surrender to the calm, cradled by the garden's quiet embrace. Ready to awaken refreshed and ready to face the afternoon, you gather your robes and descend from your secluded garden to the lively heart of the town, the local tea house, a bustling hub of conversation, debate, and the ever-present clink of porcelain cups. This isn't just a place to drink, it's a second-class room, where scholars, merchants, and officials mingle in a swirling dance of ideas and opinions. Inside, the air is thick with the scent of steeped leaves and incense, mingling with the murmur of voices discussing everything, from poetry to imperial politics. The walls are lined with bamboo screens and calligraphy scrolls, their graceful characters bearing silent witness to countless debates. You find your usual seat near a carved wooden window where you can watch the bustling street outside while engaging in the spirited exchanges inside. Around you, bearded men with flowing robes sip dark tea, their eyes gleaming with the fire of intellectual rivalry. The tea house is alive with energy, and you can't help but smile as you settle in. Here, philosophy flows thicker than the tea, and every comment is loaded with subtle nuance. The best scholars here debate fiercely, their words sharp but respectful, each trying to outwit the other with wit and wisdom. You overhear a conversation about the merits of various brewing techniques, arguments about water purity, and playful jabs at rival poets, all woven seamlessly into the larger discourse about the state of the empire. It's as if the tea house itself is a microcosm of the world beyond its walls. You raise your cup to your lips, savoring the rich, earthy flavor of the brew, a welcome contrast to the lighter teas favored in your private garden. The warmth spreads through you, steadying your nerves and sharpening your thoughts. Nearby, a group discusses the latest imperial edict, their voices low but intense. You catch fragments about tax reforms and court intrigues, realizing that the tea house serves not only as a place of learning, but also a vital center for the flow of information and rumor. Historians still argue how much influence these tea houses held over political and social currents, but it's clear that for scholars like you, they were indispensable venues for networking and survival. You join a nearby table, offering a polite nod to familiar faces. The conversation quickly turns to poetry, and soon you're engaged in a lively exchange, quoting lines from Li Bai and Du Fu with practiced ease. The camaraderie is genuine, but beneath it lies a subtle competition, each scholar eager to prove their intellectual prowess. Tea in this setting is both fuel and prize, a shared ritual binding this community together while marking its hierarchy. As the afternoon light filters through paper windows, casting delicate patterns on the wooden floor, you feel both the warmth of friendship and the sharp edge of rivalry. The tea house is a place where ideas bloom and clash, a crucible for the mind fueled by countless cups of tea. You sip slowly, letting the flavors and conversations swirl together, knowing that in this tea house, every cup is a lesson, every word a challenge. You lean forward, eager to impress as the conversation drifts to the art of describing tea, those elusive tasting notes that separate true connoisseurs from the curious novices. Words like phoenix breath and snowmelt are tossed around casually, as if they were everyday expressions rather than the poetic inventions they truly are. These elaborate metaphors turn every sip into a story, every aroma into a legend. You remind yourself that much of this florid language is less about the tea itself and more about status. The ability to wield fanciful phrases is a badge of refinement, a way to show off knowledge and elevate oneself above the common drinker. A friend playfully mocks this, declaring, "My tea tastes like dragon's tears," and everyone laughs, though some nod solemnly, as if that were the highest compliment. You chuckle inwardly, aware that beneath the flowery talk lies a game of social signaling, a dance as intricate as any calligraphic stroke. Historians still argue whether these tasting notes genuinely reflect the sensory experience or if they evolved primarily as social constructs to maintain elite distinctions. You suspect a blend of truth and artifice, much like the poetry recited over cups of tea. As the discussion deepens, you try to match your descriptions to your experience, searching for words that capture the delicate balance between bitterness and sweetness, earthiness and floral notes. The vocabulary feels both rich and frustratingly inadequate. Nearby, a scholar extols a tea's phoenix breath, meaning the smoky essence that lingers after each sip, while another describes a snowmelt flavor, evoking the crispness of freshly thawed mountain water. These images paint vivid mental pictures, adding layers to the otherwise simple act of drinking. You wonder how many of these phrases originated from the rugged mountains where the tea was grown, or from the fertile imagination of a particularly poetic drinker. The truth, as always, is likely a blend of nature and human invention. This elaborate language not only enhances the sensory experience, but also reinforces the bonds between scholars. Speaking the right words signals membership in a select club, a shared appreciation for subtlety and elegance. You sip your own tea thoughtfully, the flavors unfolding slowly like a well-crafted poem. Your words may never reach the heights of phoenix breath, but the act of trying brings its own satisfaction. Outside, the afternoon sun begins to wane, casting long shadows across the tea house floor. The gentle hum of conversation continues, punctuated by laughter and the occasional clink of a porcelain cup. You realize that in this world, the language of tea is as much about connection and identity as it is about taste. Each phrase, each metaphor, is a thread weaving together a tapestry of culture, tradition, and shared experience. You raise your cup in silent toast to the poets and drinkers who came before, knowing that tomorrow will bring new flavors, new words, and new moments steeped in history. You notice the subtle shift as the seasons turn, and with them the moods and preferences of tea change as well. Autumn brings a wistful melancholy to your cup, a deeper, warmer brew that seems to echo the fading light and falling leaves outside. It's a season that scholars often associate with reflection and quiet longing, the perfect time to savor rich, dark teas that comfort rather than invigorate. You recall heated debates among your peers about which seasonal brew best matches the scholar's temperament. Some argue that spring's fresh greens inspire renewal and hope, while others insist that the smoky depth of winter teas best mirrors the resilience required to endure harsh times. Historians still argue whether these seasonal associations were truly rooted in sensory experience or constructed to align with philosophical ideals and poetic symbolism. Either way, the ritual of switching teas with the calendar gives your daily practice a comforting rhythm. You take a slow sip of a recently brewed autumnal pu'er, its earthy notes grounding you as you gaze at the garden now tinged with the soft gold of fallen leaves. The taste carries whispers of rain-soaked mountains and misty mornings, conjuring images as vivid as any scroll. In this season, tea becomes more than a drink. It's a companion through the shifting landscape of your thoughts and emotions. The easy warmth it offers seems to chase away the chill, not just from your body, but from your mind, inviting introspection and calm. Your friends debate which tea best suits their mood, some choosing the briskness of spring buds to spark creativity, others favoring the richness of autumn leaves to foster contemplation. These preferences become part of the subtle social dance, signaling personality and state of mind without a word spoken. You smile, appreciating the way tea's changing character mirrors your own internal seasons, the cycles of energy, doubt, hope, and patience that mark the scholarly life. Outside, a gentle wind stirs the garden, rustling dry leaves across the stone paths. The light softens, casting long shadows and bathing the world in a golden haze. It feels like a living painting, one where every detail is infused with meaning. As you cradle your cup, you recognize that the ritual of seasonal tea connects you, not only to nature, but to centuries of scholars who have found solace and inspiration in these changing brews. You take another sip, letting the rich flavors settle, and prepare to embrace the moods of the next season, knowing that each will bring its own lessons steeped in history and taste. You find yourself obsessing over water, its source, purity, and impact on the perfect cup of tea. The debate among scholars about whether spring water from Tiger Hill truly tastes better than common well water is almost legendary. Some claim the mountain spring's mineral content lends a subtle sweetness and clarity that cannot be matched, while others argue the difference is negligible and often exaggerated. As you prepare your next brew, you recall stories of tea masters traveling great distances to collect this prized water, believing it could elevate even the humblest leaves to greatness. The act of fetching the water itself became part of the ritual, an offering to nature's bounty. Historians still argue whether anyone could genuinely distinguish the subtle taste differences claimed, or if it was mostly a matter of prestige and local pride. After all, access to the right water was limited, and thus became a status symbol as much as a practical concern. You run your fingers over the smooth surface of the water jug, wondering how much of your own preference is influenced by belief rather than taste. Could the water truly transform the tea's character? Or is it the ceremony and expectation that create the experience? This obsession with water quality echoes your broader quest for perfection, a search for harmony between leaf, water, and fire. You smile at the irony that something as simple as water can inspire such passionate debate. Nearby, you overhear a tea merchant boasting about the purity of his own water source, claiming it's blessed by mountain spirits. Some laugh, others nod with measured skepticism. It's all part of the dance, the blend of fact, folklore, and flair that surrounds tea culture. As you pour the water over your carefully measured leaves, you watch the liquid swirl, the colors deepening and the aromas rising. You wonder if the ancients pondered the same questions as you do now. How much does nature contribute, and how much is in the eye of the beholder? You take a slow sip, tasting not just the tea but the history, the debate and the passion steeped into every cup. The answer remains elusive, wrapped in mystery like the swirling mist over Tiger Hill itself. For now you are content to enjoy the ritual, knowing that the perfect cup is as much a matter of heart and story as science. The evening settles softly over your courtyard as you light a slender candle, its flickering glow casting dancing shadows across the worn scrolls and delicate porcelain cups scattered about. You settle into your favorite wooden chair, the scent of extinguished incense still lingering in the air, mingling with the fading warmth of your final cup of tea. The amber liquid catches the candlelight, shimmering like liquid gold, inviting you into quiet reflection. You trace the patterns on the teacup with your eyes, the subtle brushstrokes depicting tranquil mountain scenes and soaring cranes, symbols of longevity and peace. This moment, wrapped in gentle candlelight and the soft murmur of the night, feels suspended outside of time. You take a slow, deliberate sip, the warmth spreading through your body like a soothing balm after a day spent immersed in study, ritual, and social dance. The tea's flavors are mellow now, softened by hours of steeping, revealing hidden notes of honey and toasted chestnut you hadn't noticed before. As you recline slightly, the flicker of shadows seems to animate the ancient characters on the scrolls before you. You wonder whether the sage you've been reading ever spilled tea on his manuscripts, blurring the ink like you sometimes do when distracted. It's a comforting thought. These great minds, despite their wisdom, were still human, prone to the same small slips and imperfections. Historians still debate how much daily life influenced the writings of Qing scholars, but it's clear that tea was never far from their hands or thoughts. It was companion, muse, and sometimes distraction in equal measure. Outside, the courtyard is bathed in the cool glow of moonlight, silvering the leaves and smoothing the edges of stone lanterns. The garden's tranquility deepens, the occasional rustle of a night breeze the only sound breaking the stillness. You savor this final cup, the ritual closing the day like a whispered prayer. The cycle of brewing, sipping, and contemplation has brought a quiet closure to the hours, tying together the strands of your morning rituals, midday debates, and afternoon reflections. You take one last look at the flickering candle before rising, slowly, aware that soon the household will slip into complete silence. Your thoughts drift gently towards dreams, where tea leaves swirl into clouds and ink brush strokes become flowing rivers. The night holds promise, and the memory of this evening's tea lingers like a soft echo, warm, comforting, and profound. The house has quieted now, shadows stretching long and deep as midnight cloaks the world outside. You sit alone with your final cup, steam rising slowly in the pale moonlight filtering through lattice windows. This last brew is a moment of solitude and stillness, a gentle closing to the day's intricate dance of ritual and reflection. The tea's warmth seeps into your hands, steadying your breath as you sip slowly, savoring each nuanced flavor. The lingering bitterness softened by a hint of sweetness, like a whispered secret shared between old friends. It feels both grounding and ethereal, a delicate balance reflecting the scholar's life, tethered to tradition yet reaching for enlightenment. As your gaze drifts to the familiar shapes of your garden framed outside, you think back over the day, each moment steeped in ceremony, conversation, and quiet rebellion. From the misty dawn in Suzhou to the lively tea-house debates, from the private garden's serenity to the crackling incense clock marking time, your journey has been one of senses and stories intertwined. You recall the subtle tensions beneath polished words, the layers of meaning in every gesture, the playful tricks of oversteeping and choreographed avoidance of chores. These details reveal the humanity beneath the scholar's stoic exterior, a life shaped by discipline, but enlivened by humor, passion, and a touch of mischief. Historians still debate the true motivations behind these rituals. Were they acts of genuine spiritual devotion or elaborate performances for social standing? Perhaps, like the swirling steam rising from your cup, the answer is both and neither, blending together in a timeless dance. You take a final, slow sip, feeling the tea's warmth spread through your body, a comforting embrace against the cool night air. Your thoughts begin to soften, the day's details fading like ink dissolving in water. The scrolls, the ink, the garden, the heated debates, all dissolve gently into the quiet of the night. Your breathing slows, the familiar rhythm of your heartbeat, a steady drum beneath the hush. As your eyelids grow heavy, you imagine the tea leaves drifting into dreams, unfolding stories yet to be told. The candle's flame flickers one last time before surrendering to the darkness. You are ready to rest now, cradled by the calm you've cultivated, carrying with you the flavors, scents, and stories of a day well steeped. The night deepens, and with it, a gentle calm settles over you like a soft cloak. The intricate rituals and vibrant conversations of the day fade into a soothing memory, as delicate as the scent of sandalwood lingering in the air. Your breath becomes slow, even, and the world around you blurs gently into shadow and silence. You feel the warmth of the final cup resting softly in your hands, its comforting presence a steady anchor amid the quiet. The thoughts and stories from the day drift away, leaving space for peaceful dreams and restful sleep. Imagine yourself nestled in the serene garden, the soft rustle of leaves and distant whispers of water wrapping you in tranquility. The candle's last glow fades slowly, inviting you to let go of all tension and drift into gentle night. Here, in this quiet moment between wakefulness and sleep, you are safe, still, and at peace. The rituals you have lived today are carried with you now, their echoes soft and warm, guiding you toward calm and rest. Sleep well, friend, wrapped in the tender embrace of history and quiet tea, until the dawn calls you once again to rise and steep anew.